Call the Executive Body Board to order for Thursday, January 18th, 2024. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, as long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom. Meeting ID number 854-0032-4335 by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at ATM@Ayer.MA.US or 978-772-8220, Central 100 prior to the meeting. All right, excellent. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year to those I haven't seen this year. Just get right into the agenda for today. So first item up is review and approval of the previous meeting minutes from November 30th, 2023. I didn't have any changes or edits.
I didn't have any.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call the vote. Ms. Antonellis?
Aye.
Mr. Friskowski?
Aye.
Mr. Pompriand?
Aye.
Ms. Tierney?
Aye.
Ms. Cooper?
Aye.
And Mr. Seeley?
Aye.
All right, excellent. Minutes are approved. Moving on to our FY 2025 budget process update.
Mr.
Robert,
Chairman,
I'll turn it over to you.
yes, so in the interest of time, we'll sort of group 3, 4, and 6 sort of all together. So very briefly, and as far as the budget process update, as everybody knows, we are on schedule in accordance with the town budget calendar. Draft 1 went to the FinCom and the Select Board on January 12th. And in terms of the budget process update, the next big benchmark will be next Wednesday, January 24th at 6 p.m. For the budget public forum, which will be a joint meeting of the Select Board and the Finance Committee. All departments will be there, and we will present draft 1 of the budget, as well as take any questions and input from the FinCom and the Select Board and the public. Everything else is running according to schedule under number 3. So moving to number 4, which is draft 1 of the budget. And just to give a quick snapshot, as everybody knows, it's just that it's draft 1. Nothing is etched fully in stone. It's subject to revisions, which are underway as we speak. Draft 1 came in at $19,364,525. That's an increase of just over 1.4 million from FY24, or an 8% increase. And note, last year, draft 1 came in at about 7%, or about a $1.2 million increase. So again, that's the high number that we know is going to be adjusted and be coming downward. It's the major budget drivers of variables at this point, as you can see in draft 1, in no particular order. And on Wednesday night, and we'll get to that in a minute on the presentation content, we're going to try something a little different than previous years. Is we're going to have very mini presentation on each of the major budget driving categories to give the public and everyone more information and more detail. But the major drivers right now, one is the IT budget. There's a $153,000 increase in that departmental budget, which we know is going to be revised and coming down. But what's driving that is there are a series of new security requirements, cybersecurity requirements for the town that we've had to implement. One of them is under this, emails used to not have a cost impact. Now, emails, every email account will cost $3 a month per account. And when you have all of the personnel plus all of the boards of committees, that's a new cost. All of our Microsoft licensing was another cost. And there's some additional security requirements And also, the department is in a period of transition, which we'll talk in more detail on Wednesday. So there are a lot of variables in the IT budget this year that we are actively working on, and we'll talk in more detail on Wednesday.
Excuse me, Robert.
Yeah.
Real quick question. What page on the budget is the IT you just mentioned?
I don't have hang on one second. Sorry. I was just going off of my notes. Let me,
I can get it for you, Robert.
okay.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through. I'm just,
Yep. So sorry about that. You're going to be looking, IT is on page 2 of the budget. Page 2, towards the bottom.
got it. Good. Thank you. Thank you.
You'll see on
I'm good
IT
from here. Thanks.
Yep. So you'll actually see an IT, I misspoke. It's already come down since it's $116,000 increase, but that's one of the drivers we're actively working on, and we'll talk about in more detail on Wednesday. The other area, which is a perennial one, is health insurance and the town insurance account. So on health insurance, as this board knows, the Minuteman Neshoba Health Group that we belong to is actually dissolving, and we're moving over to Maya. And this is on the last page of the budget, is the group health and life insurance. We have a maximum exposure placeholder for health insurance increase of 15%. We believe that that number is not going to be at 15%, which is a good thing. There is a meeting next Thursday of the Minuteman Neshoba Health Group, unfortunately the day after our forum, where we'll have more specifics, but that is a driver. But the good news is there's, I think, there will be an opportunity there for some reduction. On the general insurance lines, which the assistant town manager oversees for the town, and that's on page, I forget what page now that one. Oh, general insurance is on, it's after facilities, it's on page 4 of the budget. The general insurance lines, the estimates we get from the insurance company, frustratingly, and it's not just Ayer, are usually on a February-March timeline. So Carly has calculated maximum exposure at 10%, and we're hopeful that and we have good reason to believe that won't be the final number there. But that's, again, a variable at this time. The other one is the fire department. As everyone is aware, the SAFER grant, which funded the 4 firefighters for the last 3 years, is expiring, and we need to assume those costs or integrate those costs into the town's budget. And for this year, that totals $118,000, and the fire budget is on page 3 at the top. And you'll see there's a $211,000 increase in draft 1. It's important to note that $118,000 of that is the SAFER costs. Additionally, the overtime line, we believe is actually budgeted for maximum exposure, and Barbara and I have talked with the fire chief, and there's an opportunity to reduce that line for draft 2 as well. But the fire piece, the SAFER grant expiration, is a major driver there. The other driver is under debt, which Barbara is, as the finance manager, but as the treasurer, is responsible for the town's debt, and as an expert on it, will speak on Wednesday about it. We want to just point out for today, in the interest of time, that the debt exclusion for the West Main Street Bridge and the debt exclusion for the pumper truck are both impacting the debt this year. The ladder truck is not yet, because the ladder truck has not been delivered. And Barbara will speak a little bit on Wednesday about the debt as a driver. Lastly, those are the major drivers besides, obviously, contractual increases. We are still seeing as every town and every household budget. Some impacts from inflation continue. But overall, if you look at many of the town departments are within line. Draft one does not include the police or dispatch contract, which is currently under negotiation. There are also 4 personal service contracts that are up, and it doesn't include any non-union cost of living recommendation, which draft one historically doesn't include. We should also be thinking under the reserve fund, that's on the first page, the first top third page, reserve fund. Barbara and I, at this point, we wanted to talk with the FinCom too at one of your meetings, level funded it from last year to 175,000. You'll recall that we increased it from the historic amount of 150,000 to 300,000 at the beginning of the pandemic. Fortunately, it wasn't needed, but it was being proactive. There may be an opportunity on the reserve fund to further reduce the 175 down to closer to historic levels. So that's another area. Barbara and I and Carly continue to meet actively with all departments as we move forward through the process to further refine and adjust where appropriate, and we will continue to keep everybody updated on that. So again, Mr. Chair, in the interest of time, that's sort of just an initial quick snapshot of draft one. Of course, we'll have more time and get into more detail on Wednesday.
Okay. Any questions regarding the budget first pass? No? All right.
Mhm.
All right, so that was 3, 4, and 6 together. So item number 5 is the FY 2025 capital planning update. So I apologize. I know we got an email from Dan. I haven't really been able to adjust my files yet.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so the tonight, the capital planning committee is probably going to have, it probably its last meeting for the cycle, but one never knows for sure. There are 3 things on the agenda. One is there was a capital request from the Department of Public Works originally for $65,000 for design work for the Park Street project. Since that was a placeholder and he went out to bid for design, the quote came back at $271,000. And upon further discussion with the Office of Economic Development that was driving this in DPW, it became evident that there's a lot more work to be done on this project before we get to the capital phase. And therefore, there's a recommendation to just withdraw for this year the funding for that, which was $65,000. The second issue, the fire chief has notified us that there was a $24,000 request for new ventilators, the fire department, that actually with final quote can be reduced down to $17,000. So those are 2 changes to the capital plan for tonight. And then the third thing, we just want to do a final review of the capital to date. And so again, in the interest of time, if you go to the capital planning webpage on the town website or the budget page, either one, you will see the most recent capital plan as voted by the committee. Scott has done an excellent job, as in previous years. We have sort of a matrix. You can see everything that was approved with the votes. Again, this is ultimately subject to placement on the warrant by the select board and subject to town meeting. So that's sort of the capital plan. There are no debt exclusions or capital exclusions for this year. And I think that's it in a snapshot, Scott, unless I missed something.
Yeah, the only thing I thought of the other night when Dan was at the select board meeting and I meant to have a quick conversation with him was we've talked off and on last year and also I think at some points this year about doing a capital for the flashing pedestrian signs. So I'll bring it up tonight just to see if other members feel it's worth doing, you know, whether it's 50 or 100,000, because they're around what 10,000 a piece. I think we established, and
Yeah.
I think there are definitely areas in town that we could utilize those as soon as possible. Downtown being one. So I'll bring it up, but I think other than that, everything should be good to go. We'll reduce the ventilator, which we've already approved. And then just remove Park Street, and that should be it.
Okay. So item number 6 was the presentation for Wednesday. And so what we were thinking would be the plan, wanted to get some feedback from this group, is start at 6. We'll open up brief presentation of the town's current financial situation, which remains very strong thanks to everybody's efforts. Talk a general overview of draft 1, specifically get into the major drivers with very brief mini presentations on each of those from the departments that are preparing. Obviously want to get questions from the FinCom select board and input and the public, you know, through the chair, and then sort of conclude after the public comments sort of with the next steps in the process. I didn't know, you know, if there's something that folks feel that we should add or shouldn't add. And let me just add this last point, which has to do with both school assessments, which we generally at this point don't, for this presentation, don't have all of the information. Because the schools are an important part of this. And I know that the FinCom is meeting tonight in the Great Hall at 6 with the schools, the Ayer Shirley Regional School District. I remain very concerned about what the assessment increases are going to be, specifically for Ayer Shirley Regional. On the Neshoba Valley Technical High School, on February 2nd, they'll have their budget breakfast where they release their budget and their assessment information. And we'll have that, and we're hearing that our assessment is going to go up based on students going there. But of all of the member communities, I understand that Ayer's assessment is going up the least. And it'll probably, if I was to guess, unofficially, it'll be somewhere just over $1 million will be the total amount for that assessment. The concern is on the Ayer Shirley side. As everybody knows, they came in November to the select board, which prompted Kurt to have them come in January. A bunch of their ESRA entitlement federal grants are running out, and there could be, we've heard informally or unofficially, and I'm not sure they fully know or they haven't communicated to that, but there could be up to it'd be up to about $1.5 million just to keep them level funded, not including a general sort of operating assessment increase. So there are concerns as to what that number is going to be, especially could it potentially be a double-digit percentage increase in the assessment. So I'm hoping, Kurt, you know, tonight, I'm hoping that the district will have more information besides the general overview in November. And I think we need to just, as a town, really focus on that, because we have limited, because the budget's driven by the school committee and the superintendent and his administration, and we basically get the assessment down here. But I don't think we can just wait until they come down in February with a number. I think we need to try to continue to be proactive on that front. So I wasn't planning on covering either of the school assessments in the form because we won't have the information yet. But I do think in terms of perhaps in some fashion, the concern should at least be brought up.
Robert, quick question. What's the name or acronym for those federal grants that are under question?
It's ESRA, ESSRA. AYER is the acronym.
Good,
And
thank you. I
Yep.
can look it up from there.
And the other one, Kurt, too, that I think is mitigating it too, is they had a lot of one-time COVID funding. COVID funding that's also gone.
Got
And so that interestingly, the last several years, the school assessments have been, specifically ASRSD, have been, manageable and what have you. It seems to be a concerning wild card this time, and I just think we need to be proactive.
Very good. Thanks for the heads up and info on that, Robert.
So Rob, you said in order to make up for the funding, the school's looking at possibly up $1.1 million.
Yeah, what I asked, because after they came to the board, the town administrator from Shirley and I had a brief conversation with them, and they don't have any numbers. They're saying the specific numbers. The state budget doesn't come out till next Wednesday. And how this came up, I kept saying, oh, I understand that, but for the sake of discussion, let's say all things being equal, you must have a sense of how much you would need to just be, level service funded for FY25, and they indicated that they estimated it'd be about $1.5 million. That doesn't include the operating assessment. And a comment was made that there's approximately 20 positions that have been funded over the years under this grant funding. I had recommended, I'm going to ask them tonight, I had suggested they try to run some different scenarios and put these scenarios through the calculation of the regional agreement so we could, get a sense. I'm just concerned, it's now January 18th. They're scheduled to come before a joint meeting on February 6th. We don't have any real sense.
So in the worst case scenario, 1.5 that they need on top of the operating for our portion be approximately $870,000 just for air.
How much?
And that's using $870,000. That's
Okay.
us absorbing 58%, which I think is the number
Yeah.
we're currently at for the percentage.
So Robert, you're taking the 1.5 and multiplying it by 0.58.
Yeah, that's how I get to the 870.
Yeah.
The other factor which you and I have talked about, Robert, in this is Shirley, because Shirley's going to be 630,000 just with that 1.5 million. So the operating on top of that, and we know Shirley's track record. So there's going to be, I think, a lot of pushback with the number in Shirley.
Yes.
So I think it'll be very interesting how it plays out, particularly with the way that the regional agreement is set up. So, but yeah, to your point, Robert, if they could give us any sense of different scenarios that they have, like if they need the full 1.5, what's their plan? Are they just going to keep riding it out and ask for the money, or do they have a plan to cut positions, et cetera?
Right. So we're hoping with the FinCom, tonight's meeting, there may be some more information. I'm
Okay.
planning to attend and hopefully there's more info. So back to the presentation again, I know there's so much information and we try to make it so, gear it towards, the public and touch upon the major issues. Again, introduction, where we stand financially, which is strong and positive, which is good. General overview of draft 1 with the specific drivers, and touching upon those major drivers, not to minimize any questions of any other department or any other increase, but these are the major. Get all of the input, and then at the end, sort of talk about, next steps and so forth. And I'm just thinking somewhere in there, we can just, mention that, yes, we're focusing on the town's budget and the omnibus budget, but the school assessments of the overall picture are a huge part of it. And there's just some variables there.
I think it's prudent to have a caution regarding the schools.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think from what I can understand, the new format, I think should be a little more succinct than previous versions of the forum. So hopefully that's well received. And thanks to everyone who's participating and putting in the effort for this.
So, Mr. Chair, that's sort of the snapshot accelerated by board meeting for this afternoon. I just want to add, I know we get like 4 minutes for you. Quickly, Carly and Kerry have continued to work on the ClearGov and have a quick update on that as far as next steps. So through you, Carly, do you want to
Please.
just?
Yeah, thank you. So we're just putting the finishing touches on and polishing up the overall look of it. We're hoping to have it released by like March 1st, mid-March. And what we will put up there is, you know, the current fiscal 24 budget. So you can kind of see in real time where we're at as far as expenditures for the year. And then we'll, you know, be building the FY25 at the same time. So the 25 book will have, you know, the historical data. But our first year of it rolling out, we're kind of going to play around with the format a bit. We were thinking maybe also for our second budget form, instead of doing a budget form, we could do like a public launch of ClearGov and kind of show people how to navigate through the site. It's pretty user friendly and it's intuitive, but it would, you know, just so folks know where to access it, et cetera, et cetera. So we're putting all that together and we hope to have a more targeted time frame by, you know, next week. Carrie and I are going to meet.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. I like the idea of using the second forum as a launch.
Yeah.
It should have some fanfare given the amount of effort that's gone into putting it together.
Mhm.
Confetti, fireworks, whatever we want. Oh, sorry, we can't do fireworks.
So as far as the next meeting, scheduling the next meeting, I would propose we obviously have a February meeting. And I think anytime after the 6th, obviously the 6th isn't the 6th, I think is the meeting with the school committee and the FinCom and the select board. So, you know, I was going to propose, you know, either we've been doing Thursdays at 2 generally, either maybe the 8th or the 15th.
Either of those two dates work for me?
Both work for me.
Either work for me as well.
Yes, Kurt and Andrew.
That's okay. Good with me.
Okay.
Let's do the 8th.
All right.
All right. 8th it is.
And 2 again. So,
Yep. 2 on Zoom.
okay.
All right. So I think that's everything on the agenda. Open up to any general questions or comments. No. All right. If there isn't any, then I'll take a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 2:30.
I second that.
All right. Thank you very much. Roll call the vote. Ms. Antonellis,
Aye.
Mr. Friskowski,
Aye.
Mr. Pompriand,
Aye.
Ms. Tierney,
Aye.
Ms. Cooper,
Aye.
and Mr. Sealy.
Aye.
All right, excellent. Chair says aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining today. Apologize I had to cut it short, but I appreciate everyone's flexibility.